and things look okay there on my side. So let's go ahead and kick things back off there. So first and foremost, guys, so like I was noting, we essentially have about 55 UEFI updates that we've got this week. I'll be posting them in the ASUS PCDIY group under a featured announcement. You can feel free to go ahead and check out that featured announcement in the group. Just make sure to go ahead and join us in the group, and you can check that out. I will go ahead and leave a link for those that are interested. And altogether, like I said, these updates are generally going to be covering both Intel and AMD series, but probably for the most important series of updates, it is going to apply to our AMD series of users, specifically on 400 or 500 series that are looking for that 1.2.0.6 release. Now, keep in mind that AMD series motherboards at this point are quite mature in terms of the overall base chipset and firmware, so you shouldn't necessarily expect to see large level improvements in any respect. This is generally actually a basic firmware chipset update in terms of this 1.2.0.6 release. But I always critically communicate that if you do have an overclocked setup and configuration, I'm very cautious in terms of recommending that you update your UEFI, especially when there's a new AGESA. The main reason being is that you can actually have changes to what are referred to as the auto rules and certain kind of sub-operating parameters in terms of how the system works that can actually affect the overall experience that you might have, especially if you've got tightly tuned DRAM dividers and timings and frequencies, customized PBO parameters and things along those lines. A lot of times, sometimes users think they can translate the same exact settings from one build to another build, and that's not necessarily the case. In some situations, you might actually have to start from scratch and retune specific to that build. This is the reason why I generally recommend don't necessarily go from a hunt of trying to think that you're going to just get a better experience, especially once a board reaches a pretty good level of maturity. Most UEFI updates that are released are generally going to be specific. So they're going to be usually for a specific interoperability improvement. They could be for a feature improvement, but they're not necessarily going to be focused at performance. So just something to keep in mind. And again, the full update for about the 50 odd boards that we've got that will contain the updates will be coming a little bit later today. All right. So looks good. Let's go ahead and just see if we got anything on that side. And I think that we're looking good. Okay, great, guys. So next up, let me go ahead and just bring up my notes here. We've got a cool little, I think, kind of, let's just say it's a teaser. I think that's what it best qualifies as. But we've got a cool little product that'll actually be coming up, guys. And if you were part of the ASUS PCDIY group, you probably already saw this. But for those that haven't, let's go ahead and check it out and let me know what you guys think this may or may not be. All right. So let me go ahead and just bring this up here. And you guys can tell me what you think it might be. Okay, so that is our little teaser right there, and this is going to be for an upcoming product. We'll have some more information on it in the not too distant future. I think it's fairly self-explanatory. If we take a little bit of a closer look right here, we can see that there's definitely keys in here, and it looks probably like a keyboard, right? But what keyboard might it be in terms of our series? For those of you who may or may not be aware, we've got quite a number of different keyboards. We recently launched the Flare 2. We've got, of course, the Claymore 2, which I have right here, which is an optical and wired and wireless-based keyboard. You can go ahead and move the numpad either from the left or the right-hand side, or you can take it off. I've got the ROG Falchion, which is this ultra-compact 65% keyboard here. We've, of course, got the ROG Strix Scope series, right, which we have in full-size and TKL. So what do you think this is going to be in terms of a new keyboard? So coming out, looks like we're going to have two different versions of it there. So make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned. For those that have very good eagle eyes, right? Some of them might already notice that here, if we take a little bit closer look, you'll see that there's a kind of a hallmark of ROG gaming keyboards, especially within our Strix Scope series, where you'll notice that maybe the control key is a little bit larger than the norm. So that's kind of a little bit of a giveaway that this might fall out under the ROG Strix Scope series. So make sure to go ahead and keep it tuned to the ASUS PCDIY group, and definitely, of course, to following stream, where we'll definitely dive into the latest and greatest that we've got in terms of this new hardware update. So a little bit of a teaser there in terms of just some new items that we're going to be having coming down the pipe. All right. Let's see. So Geekbench says he thinks it's an optical keyboard. That's a good guess. We do already have an optical keyboard, of course, though, with the ROG RX switches. So that is going to essentially be something that we already do have. Now, whether or not that keyboard is going to have it, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But if you are interested in that optical life, so you're looking for essentially that super fast actuation, that superior reliability, and the benefits that you definitely have with the RX switches as opposed to a traditional stem-based switch, then we definitely already have you covered with the Claymore 2 and the ROG Strix Scope RX are both going to feature our optical-based switches. All right, so let's go ahead and see what we got next up here, and we'll keep moving things along. I think we've got probably a set of questions that we've got from our Instagram community that we're probably going to dive into first and foremost, but let me go ahead and just double check here. I got our UEFI announcements, our teaser range. Okay, yeah, I think that's good. So I think probably I'm going to get ready to jump into, our Q&A questions. And of course, if you guys have any questions, because we're pretty light this week in terms of any new products, before we get into the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, then definitely feel free to go ahead and drop them. I do have some promos for you guys on the monitor side as well that our team let me know about. So I'm going to go ahead and share those with you. Go aahead and load those up for you. And I think we've got 3 different monitors that are on promo right now. So, and some pretty good savings. It looks like we've got one is going to be $20 off, one is going to be $30 off, and one is going to be $50 off. So some nice savings across the board for a number of different monitors that we have within the lineup. So go ahead and get these loaded up here for you. Okay, cool. So let's see. First and foremost, I will drop these all in the chat. So if anybody is interested, they can check them out. Okay, so I've gone ahead and dropped those in the chat. The first one we're going to take a look at is going to be the VG27WQ1B, and that is going to be this guy right here. So let's take a look at that monitor. And I think this one is going to be, I'll double check the price off right now, but this one is going to be 27 inches, 2560 by 1440. So that's going to be a 1440 monitor. Really nice upgrade if you're coming over from 1080p. That's going to be nice for just giving you a lot more space in terms of your desktop environment, and definitely going to give you a bit more sharpness as well as kind of a more field of view when you're jumping into, of course, a wider range of games. 165 hertz, so between 144 165, so it's a high refresh rate monitor. Again, that's going to be really nice for a 2D fast and fluid responsive desktop experience. Plus, you get that improved motion clarity when you're talking about gaming. You're going to have 1 millisecond MPRT. Now, keep in mind, that's not going to be gray to gray. So this means this is not a 1 millisecond gray to gray responsive monitor, but depending on what you're upgrading from, that could still definitely be an improvement. You do have adaptive sync support, and this also is going to be a 1500R. So that means that is actually going to have a curve to it. So it's going to have a little bit more of that kind of immersive experience. Also, for some people, they prefer that when it talks about the field of view where you might be straining your eyes coming out to the corners. It's going to seem a little bit more immersive, maybe even a little bit larger, maybe closer to like a 30 or 32-inch display because essentially of that curvature that it has. Okay, so that is going to be one that we currently have on promotion there. And let me just see right here. And it looks like the this one's going to be $30 off right now. Okay, and next monitor I think is going to be, let's see here, going to be the VG32. That's going to be this guy right here. So here we step up to a 32-inch as opposed to a 27-inch. This is also going to be a 1440p based display. So 1440, 2560 by 1440, still high refresh rate, 144 hertz. Same 1 millisecond MPRT. And this one is also going to be a curved based display. So 1800R. So you're going to have a little bit more of that curvature, which is going to complement that 32-inch. I really like actually a 32-inch 2560 by 1440. Some people feel that they want to keep it at 27 inches. I don't feel that it's an issue in terms of what's called the PPI or the pixels. In terms of their visibility, it's really nice and large, which is great, especially if you're into kind of action RPGs. I really also like it actually for racing games, platform titles, really actually for any type of game scenario, although I know a lot of FPS-centric players really do like to kind of focus in between that 24 to about 27-inch, but definitely there's a lot of people that still enjoy FPS gaming experiences on a 32-inch base display. Now, keep in mind also for this model, you're going to have similar specification support in terms of the extreme low motion blur, adaptive sync, and FreeSync support. Again, if you guys are not aware of the extreme low motion blur sync technology, that essentially just means the monitor has backlight strobing. So that is an option that you can toggle on. It's not going to be beneficial for every single game, but in some scenarios, it can actually really provide you an improvement in terms of motion clarity. So you can actually try it out, see if you actually feel that it provides you an improvement in motion clarity. do keep in mind that it is going to knock down brightness a little bit. So for that improvement in motion clarity, you're also going to see a little bit of a reduction in the panel's brightness. But a lot of people don't necessarily run their monitors at 100% peak brightness. It's actually pretty common that a lot of people are targeting somewhere between 50 to about 75% of the brightness of the monitor. So it's not that much of a penalty, but you will notice a little bit of a reduction. Okay, and I think this one is coming in at a reduction of, let's see here, $50. So this is quite a bit of a savings from its baseline price. So this one is a $50 saving. And then the last monitor is going to be the VG279Q, which is going to be a 1080p 27-inch 1 millisecond MPRT, along with 144 hertz as well. This is using a little bit more of a classic design, but definitely tried and true monitor. Great option there as well. And this one is going to be coming in with, I think, a $20 savings. So those have all been linked in the chat, and you should be good to go, guys. So make sure to check those out if maybe you're interested in a new monitor. Let me see if we got any questions right there. Let's just say, so Michael's asking, when you get a chance, what was the release of the TUF Gaming Alliance RGB memory that was mentioned today? Oh yeah, great. There's essentially new kits of memory that are coming out from Team Group. They are a partner of ours that actually do offer DDR5 memory kits. So based on the information they've let us know, they are actually pushing that out right now to distribution channels. So my expectation would be, depending on the logistics of the e-tailers in question, you should probably be seeing these pop up online, I'd say within probably the next 2.5 to probably about 5 weeks. And it can really vary depending on the e-tailer in question, whether you're talking about Amazon, Newegg, Micro Center, any one of the corresponding partners that works with Team Group. You can attempt to reach out to them and see if they can give you a little bit more specific kind of timelines. But similar to us, when we push out our products to our channel, once we actually push them out to the channel, you have to deal with shipping and logistics and then the processing of that e-tailer or retailer to essentially integrate those products into their inventory and then get them listed online. And that process can really actually be quite variable for a number of different reasons. But I would expect to probably see them available sometime in March, if not, maybe a little bit earlier, as far as maybe second week, as opposed to maybe the third or the fourth week. Let me go ahead and bring up a quick reference here for anybody that's actually wondering about, because maybe not everybody actually knows about our TUF Gaming Alliance. So we do offer, of course, a range of motherboards, our TUF Gaming series. So that's going to be like this board right here. I went over into my magic bag of holding right there. But this is one of our TUF Gaming motherboards. And one of the things that we actually did when we designed and developed the TUF Gaming series is that we did actually work with a number of partners to essentially develop a set of kind of complementary components, from coolers to memory to SSDs, that match not only the design aesthetic, but they also have pre-validated. Part of that kind of focus for us is to help to ensure, I'd say, a more consistent experience for first-time builders, because sometimes first-time builders are kind of wondering, hey, I want to put together a system, but I don't know if everything is going to work. And sometimes they're looking at QVLs or things like that. So it's kind of like a very easy thing to know that if you see that it's got the TUF Gaming branding, that it's going to be essentially compatible. So, and see, I got the image up here. I'll bring them up for, I think, both the SSD and for the memory. M.2, here we go. Okay. Team Group, SSD, here we go. Okay, perfect. All right, so this is going to be right here. So this is the Team Group M.2 PCI Gen 4 based NVMe SSD. That is going to be one item right there. And then the other one is going to be right here, the TUF Gaming memory as well. So, and they do have this now in both DDR4 and DDR5. So you can get it in both options. Okay. All right. Thanks for that question, Michael. Hey, Jason, does ASUS have a NUC type system? We definitely actually do. We've actually talked about quite a number of them over the last couple of PCDIY streams. Those are actually referred to as our PN series. So let me go ahead and see if I can show you right here. PN. So here we go. I will show you right here. So this is an example. This right here, I think, is the PN62. And we have multiple different types of PN models for both Intel and AMD based platforms. Ones that have Thunderbolt, ones that don't have Thunderbolt, ones that have more expansion, as far as multiple drives as opposed to, maybe a single drive. Here in this one, it actually can support up to 4 displays, has USB 10 gigabits, 2.5 gig networking, Wi-Fi 6E. You can see it supports a traditional SATA drive, which can easily be accessed. You also have the ability to mount in an M.2 based SSD. It comes with the VESA mount design. So we actually do have quite a number of different types of options in terms of different types of mini PC type systems. So pretty much what you have to do is just figure out what's going to be the package profile in terms of the CPU that you're looking for. So the power rating. So you could be talking about kind of the ultra low power envelope or maybe a little bit of a higher power envelope. We do have ones that are essentially going to be using kind of the same class of CPUs that you might find within, let's say, laptops, and ones that might even be a lower power envelope, right? But even in the pretty low power envelope, you can get some pretty high end units like the AMD units that are utilizing the Ryzen series CPUs. You can get still a very impressively small unit with literally up to 16 threads, right? And we also do have 10th gen, 11th gen, and there will also be 12th gen enabled mini PCs. So we've kind of from the Intel side. So we really kind of cover the entire gamut. And then, of course, if you need more than what the integrated IGP would offer within this type of platform, then our highest performing solutions would probably be you looking at something like a thin ITX, or then, of course, a mini ITX system, and then kind of fully building your own system. But that would generally mean, of course, adding in some more components as opposed to these, which are generally going to be powered via an AC adapter. Hey, David, thanks for the feedback. Good to know that you've noticed that. All right. So next up here, let's see what we're going to go ahead and cover. We've got some, I think, some general community questions. So these are going to be coming in from Instagram. So I haven't gone ahead and been able to load them all in yet, but give me a second here. And we're going to see what we've got in terms of some of our questions here. So, and then we're going to get ready to jump into our ASUS PCDIY Builder Spotlight, guys. So, let me see here. Give me a second. Okay. All right. So, if we scroll down here, let me see. First question that I've gone ahead and logged in. All right. Is going to be what motherboard and cooler is going to be the best? So this is kind of always a tricky kind of question. It really can really vary because it's a hard way to kind of answer what is best, right? Do you mean best kind of overclocking motherboard? Do you mean Intel or AMD? Do you mean mini ITX, ATX? Best maybe relative to your budget. So are you spending $200 versus, let's say, $600? There can be a lot of different factors. Overall, without kind of having a little bit more information from the user, it's hard to know. So my general recommendation is if you're looking for a really great quality board in terms of kind of just having quote unquote maybe very high level features, functions, design, and specifications, our Maximus or our Crosshair Hero motherboard is usually always going to be a really great choice. They're not necessarily always going to be the highest end model that we're going to have in the ROG lineup. Like we'll have like the Formula, or we might have the Apex or the Extreme series. But the Hero really is going to be a significant upgrade compared to any of the other boards that we have within, let's say, the Prime series, the TUF Gaming series, the ROG Strix series. And even compared a lot of times to the ProArt series. So it's really going to offer you a great foundation in terms of the core specifications, the connectivity, kind of the rich feature set. It's a great choice. So if you're going Intel or AMD, take a look at the ROG Hero series. That could either be the Maximus Hero or it could be the Crosshair Hero. And then from there, I think they said, what would they do in terms of the cooler? Cooler wise, probably my recommendation would be taking a look at our ROG Strix LC2 series. So either the 240 or 360, or also the Ryujin 240 or 360, which you see right here. Now, as far as, which is better, the Ryujin does have a little bit of an edge in terms of giving you some supplemental airflow, because on the inside right here, it does have a VRM fan that can provide some airflow for the surrounding section, but that's not really going to be that critical. It's just a nice kind of premium design. And of course, it has this really cool 3.5-inch display. But from a cooling performance perspective, it's pretty much going to be very close to the ROG Strix LC2, either 240 or 360. So that would be my recommendation for you there if you're looking for kind of some good choices here. And I will show you that board just for reference here in case you're wondering about the Maximus Hero. We have, of course, feature this on full live stream, but here is the Maximus Hero. Great, really cool looking board. Also has that really cool design feature right there with that integrated Q release design where you can easily eject the graphics card, the polymorph display right here, Wi-Fi 6E, tons of USB ports, and it's got a lot of really cool additional extras that also come built in with the board. So that is going to cover our first question. Very cool. So Geekbench guy is asking, when I plug into the ASUS motherboard HDMI port, I can use the graphics option to delegate the GPU resources. What feature is this? So that actually is a feature that's generally supported in terms of IGP. It's a multi-graphics card support, which it's kind of inherent to the chipset, as well as also supported natively by modern versions of Windows. But you do actually have to enable it, and then from there, of course, install the driver. This is generally going to be most beneficial in a couple of configurations. So one, maybe if you want to leverage quick sync. So maybe you have a discrete graphics card that you're going to plug in and game on, but maybe you want to use the iGPU specifically for kind of decoding or encoding purposes, and maybe in a specific application that might benefit from also utilizing that. So there could be a couple of scenarios that's why you may want to use the iGPU. But by default, most, of course, users in a desktop ATX-based build are generally going to be using a discrete graphics card, so they're generally not going to use the iGPU. But we still do offer that pretty much on all of our desktop class boards as far as having an HDMI output, because it can be simpler for maybe troubleshooting purposes, maybe the baseline for getting your system set up, or for a number of different reasons, you might want to be able to take advantage of that integrated iGPU. Okay. So next up here, let's go ahead and take a look here and see what's next. This user is actually asking about on the laptop side and saying, how can I fix, see right here, let me see. I'm going to go ahead and actually just put their question here in the banner, and so we can just have it there for as reference. So his question is, how can I fix coil whine in a laptop? So this is from actually a laptop user, but it does apply to motherboard users or graphics card users. Is how can I fix this? So this is a really interesting situation. We do have people that actually bring this up on occasion within the PCDIY group. You can't actually fix inductor resonance. So when you talk about the components on a graphics card, there are going to be different components that can actually produce audible emissions. Let me see if I do have my spare card over here. I don't know if I have my graphics card over here. But I do actually have a motherboard. So let me actually... Oh, I was looking at this laptop. Okay, so right here we have a laptop that I was doing some work on. And so actually here you'll see some of the core componentry that you'll see on the underside of the laptop, including the power delivery section. So right here, you'll actually see this is the inductors or the chokes. And then above that, you'll actually see some power stages. So supplemental power components that are on there. And some users actually are confused. Sometimes you might think that the sound could be coming from the inductor, but it actually could be even coming from the MOSFET. Both of them can actually emit an audible kind of sound that you can hear. And it really does vary as far as why and when it will happen. It generally will occur most times when there's usually a specific type of load that is present on the system. And these loads can vary. It could be certain types of games. It could be certain types of frame rates under certain games. There can be quite a number of different kind of situations. You will generally find that a little bit over time, the resonance can kind of, let's say, decrease, or I'd say kind of stabilize a little bit when you're first running your system. So if you first experience it, you can wait a little bit and see if it improves. If you really find that it's something you want to try to maybe adjust, they're going to have a limited set of options. One would be maybe implement some type of a frame rate cap. This will change essentially how the power componentry is being loaded. This would also apply on a desktop system. You could apply some form of frame rate cap. A second option, which isn't going to necessarily always be as easy on a laptop as you might be able to do it on a desktop, would be maybe making modifications to the voltage. So maybe undervolting the system. Again, here you're kind of changing a little bit how some of the power parameters are working on the system, and you may be able to potentially improve it that way. Neither one of these are a guarantee, though, that you can essentially resolve it. It is important to keep in mind that coil whine, or essentially any of that type of audible emission, is not generally an indicator of a fault or failure that something is going to fail. It is a normal byproduct. There's essentially you know, those components, they're just working, and when they're under load, they can actually just produce an actual audible signature. So it's not something that you should necessarily be concerned with or worried. I will also tell you, some users aren't aware of this. We actually do, and many of our products, especially like on the graphics card side, use something that's called a fully molded alloy inductor. So that means that all the way through the inductor, it's sealed. And this helps to actually mitigate and reduce the opportunity, or essentially the characteristic of some form of emission. But again, it's not a guarantee. And you can really experience this on all types of components. You can find people that have posted about it on consoles, on laptops, on graphics cards, on really actually anything that has that type of power componentry. It's going to be more common for probably higher performing systems than it will be for lower performing systems. But that is kind of just the nature of things. So hopefully that helps to answer your question in that regard. Okay. So next up, we've got a question here from a user asking about my QL120 fans. I'm wondering how to make them work optimally with Corsair, IQ, and Aura. So you do want to keep in mind that ASUS Aura Sync, right, which is a function that we have to be able to synchronize all of our lighting components, is designed to first and foremost work with our components and our products, as well as partners that directly use direct interface connections. So what I mean by that is when we take a look at, again, like a motherboard, motherboards are going to feature like these little headers that are going to be on here. When a fan, LED, a chassis, anything plugs into these headers, we can directly control them and synchronize them with actually very good functionality. But when you talk about something like Corsair or Corsair or NZXT, which actually have their own controllers, there's actually no control that we offer. It's all just a plugin to try to offer some element of synchronicity between generally maybe some elements of the ASUS core components like the motherboard and potentially the graphics card with those Corsair-based devices. So all the management functionality in terms of your fans have to be done through IQ. So if you're having an issue with that, it's something that you'll have to actually, feedback directly to Corsair. You can leave feedback in our Armory Crate forum. I'm going to drop that in the chat if you're interested, and you can provide that feedback to our design and development team and see if it's something on our end that we can try to improve upon. But as I noted, we don't offer control for Corsair-based products because they actually require their own actually controller. And even for things like that plug into our motherboard, like their memory, we actually still have to utilize their API, as it's not a direct open accessible API like it is for other memory modules where you can natively plug them in and have them be natively controlled by the software. So hopefully that helps to give you a little bit of insight. If you're running into issues, they're always kind of general recommendation also is to, maybe make sure that you've uninstalled all your software, make sure to reboot in between each installation, and then reinstall each piece of software with full reboots in between. Don't install them simultaneously at the same time or within the same active Windows session. Make sure to reboot, activate them, and then go ahead and complete any corresponding updates to those applications, and then go from there. So hopefully that will help you on that side. Let's see if we got any questions there. Hey, Rusty, happy to have you here on the stream, man. Thanks so much for joining us. So Richard's asking, hey, JJ, I will buy the ASUS Ryzen 2 for the 5950X. I'm hoping for 70 C temps, all cores, 32 threads. So the 5950X is a very beefy processor. You are going to have to be prepared that it is going to be actually a processor that is going to, definitely have its demands in terms of actually ensuring good temperature performance. The thing, though, that you have to balance out, though, is how are you utilizing the 5950X? An example of this is the 12900K that I'm running right here in this system. You'll find actually a lot of media that say that the 12900K is very hot and it's very difficult to cool. It's not the case. Even when it's overclocked, it's actually very reasonable. I actually did all of my testing initially with a tower heatsink. I was able to cool it, not with this one right here, but with a Noctua U14S, was able to cool the 12900K. The difference is that I wasn't actually loading the CPU on all threads consistently under load. My focus was on general desktop usability and on gaming, which I had gaming even with overclocks. So that 12900K with an overclock all the way up to 5.4, 5.5 gigahertz, and even with voltages exceeding 1.5, right, that were set under an adaptive voltage policy, meaning that was specific to per core, and it would drop up and down depending on load, was able to be cooled without any overall concerns. And the reason being is that if you check kind of the temperature delta between, let's say, running Cinebench across a high core count CPU like a 5950X or a 12900K versus like gaming, you might find that the temperature delta difference could be in the range of 30 to 40 plus C. So one set of temperatures here, which is showing like, 90 C, and then another one over here, which is going to be maybe in the mid 40s, mid 50s, right? And that's also going to be the case for the 5950X. So if you're using a 5950X for kind of general use, then I wouldn't say that there's any concerns. With the Ryujin 2, definitely it's one of the best absolute AIO coolers you can get on the market. But if you're heavily going to be running this CPU under consistent load all the time, right, or the majority of the time, then it might actually be a better investment into some form of simple closed loop water cooling system. Excuse me, open loop water cooling system. The base cost is going to be somewhat similar. It's not maybe going to look as necessarily as cool as a Ryujin 2, but it's around that $300 price point, maybe a little bit less than that, for you to be able to get a basic, pump, reservoir, and radiator block from, partners like EK, Thermaltake, Fantex, Bits Power, whoever it is might be that you're kind of choosing for your water cooling setup. And then from there, you could definitely be able to manage those temperatures even to a better degree. But, for general usage and even for occasional rendering loads, yes, that cooler will definitely be able to handle a 5950X. So hopefully that answers your question there. All right. So Geekbench is asking, I have 4 RGB strips, ARGB strips, and one 12-volt RGB on the ASUS motherboard RGB header. Can I add a Corsair RGB and have it run independently? Yeah, because that strip isn't controlled by Armory Crate or by ASUS, right? That strip is going to have to plug into some form of a Commander Core node, or something along those lines, a Commander Core Pro or whatever it might be for Corsair's controller. So you're going to be controlling that LED through the Corsair IQ software. And if you're not running ASUS or Sync, then for sure you can go ahead and run that however you'd like. So yes, that configuration is possible. And again, that's just because their ecosystem of components are not designed to be controlled by Armory Crate, right? Again, we do not control any Corsair-based components in Armory Crate. It is not possible. You cannot control, you can't control RAM, you can't control their fans, you can't control their coolers. Nothing can be controlled. The only option that we have is a basic level of synchronization support, which still requires IQ to be installed, which then can sync your Corsair memory with the rest of the lighting that you might set within Armory Crate. That's essentially the only level of control that is available. Okay. So next up, let's go ahead and just see here. Next question we have here is going to be, I just ordered a Thunderbolt card. Since my ASUS board didn't have Thunderbolt, will it work? So this is a good question here. Let me go ahead and then see. I don't know. Do I have the Thunderbolt adding card here? Let's see, hopefully if I have it here. Not sure if I have that. Doesn't look like I have it here for reference, but essentially our motherboards do have a TB header. Let me see if I can actually, maybe I can show the TB header. So B550, yeah, should be able to do it on this board. See if I can show you guys here. Okay, yeah, here we go. Okay. So if we take a look at this motherboard right here, down here, you'll see that there's actually a Thunderbolt header. So this is a specific header that will actually work with a Thunderbolt add-in card. So we have Thunderbolt 3, and now we actually have a Thunderbolt 4 add-in card. You would plug the actual card into a slot. They'll connect the cable that will go here. You do need to make sure to update the UEFI to support this. And then there also will be an optional Thunderbolt software package that does need to be installed. Assuming that that is what you have done in terms of your core components that you've gone ahead and picked up, yes, you will be able to go ahead and be able to add Thunderbolt to your system in that fashion. And if you had, let's say, an Intel-based system as opposed to an AMD-based system, it would work the same exact way, right? You just would want to check if the motherboard does have the Thunderbolt header. As long as it has a Thunderbolt header, it is compatible with our Thunderbolt add-in card, and you'll be good to go. Also, generally, do keep in mind that for the best Thunderbolt experience, you do generally want to be running up-to-date versions of Windows in terms of the Windows build releases. That would be applicable for both Windows 10 and for Windows 11. Okay. All right. Hey, Robert. This might be a question that has been asked before, but can AI Suite be uninstalled since Armory Crate is already there, or both needed? So that's actually a very good question. So this is actually a little bit of an evolving process. So Armory Crate recently, really kind of at the very end of 2021 and 2022, started to introduce new features that were only accessible within AI Suite in the past. An example of this was our Fan Expert fan controls. These did only used to be available in AI Suite, but they were not available within Armory Crate. There are still elements of functionality that are only available within AI Suite. And so we do actually design them to currently be fully interoperable. But if you are not necessarily utilizing those functions within AI Suite at all, then yes, you can entirely remove it. Armory Crate is not dependent on AI Suite in any way. So you don't need to have AI Suite installed to be able to utilize Armory Crate in any respect or Aura Creator. This would even apply if you are using the fan control functionality within Armory Crate. It does not rely on AI Suite. So you can fully remove AI Suite. And we are going to be looking to further evolve the functionality within Armory Crate over time. So more of the functions and features that you're seeing within AI Suite are being ported over within Armory Crate. So an example of this was like enabling the AI overclocking functionality, more advanced monitoring functions are also being incorporated within Armory Crate. So yes, slowly over time, you will continue to pretty much see ASUS AI Suite disappear entirely and then only be the focus being Armory Crate. If you're on an older platform, though, that hasn't necessarily seen the firmware and the software updating support to enable some of those functions like fan controls through Armory Crate, and Armory Crate is pretty much just there for your RGB management, you would still want to keep AI Suite there for things maybe like your fan controls or specialized monitoring parameters. So it very much depends on the motherboard, but I would say for modern systems, if you're not using some of the other features or functions of AI Suite, yes, you can remove AI Suite and you can go from there. Okay. Hopefully that answers that question. Hey, respect, respect. Wondering about the ROG Flow Z13 release date. So that's a good question. We generally don't cover here on the stream our system-related products. So like our laptops, we only focus on our PCDIY components. So motherboards, graphics cards, routers, monitors, peripherals, anything that we do that's PCDIY. That being noted, we will be having actually an upcoming stream that will be focusing on our system-related products. And definitely just make sure to keep it tuned to our social channels. We'll actually do an announcement once the ROG Flow is actually going to be available. And one thing that you may not be aware is, let me go ahead and actually bring up our product page, but we have started to try to do what are called notification message. So there sometimes are going to be sites and products where you'll have the opportunity that you can sign up for a notification when the product is actually being made available. And also in some situations, if the product is actually going to be directly purchasable from us. So an example here is if we were to go to the Flow's website, you'll actually see that there'll be like a little link here that might say notify me or buy now. Or if you also go to this where to buy link, this where to buy link is actually linked into a backend system where we actually coordinate this with different types of e-tailers. So this could include anybody from, Exotic PC to Amazon to any number of different e-tailers. So over time, you'll actually see that you'll actually have a listing that will get refreshed here. So you can go back and actually check that to be able to confirm on that. But hopefully in the future, we'll be able to give you a little bit more information regarding a release date on that guy. Next question is the ROG Chakram stops working with the RF dongle, only works with Bluetooth. Interesting. So that's a little bit of a trickier question. I'm not sure. You can't necessarily reset it. One thing you could try to do is you could actually go into the profiles. You go into the profile software for Armory Crate, and you could go to the reset profile option, which would essentially kind of fully reset the mouse. That could be one thing that you could attempt to do and see if that helps to resolve your issue. Maybe also switch the profile from one profile to another could be another option, and see if that works. And also, just double check and make sure that within Armory Crate, if there's an applicable firmware update, see if actually applying the firmware update might resolve the issue that you're having. And of course, if you're still within the warranty period, reach out to our service and support team so that they can work with you. Maybe it's just the possibility that maybe the RF adapter, this little guy, maybe this is faulty or maybe it's become damaged. So that is something that you could also do. So hopefully that will help you out in that respect. Hey, Connor, Fantastic. Glad to know that you appreciate the fan control functionality. We are working actually on some cool additions and updates for hopefully a future version of Armory Crate, as well as for our UEFI tuning to even be able to add some more advanced options in future kind of implementations. So as always, make sure to just keep it tuned and keep your software up to date, and you'll be able to take advantage of those. So we've got just a couple more questions here within our Q&A, and then we're going to get ready to jump into our PC DIY Builder Spotlight. So let me go ahead and just see right here. You need to, I'm not exactly sure of this person. So I think this person is asking, can you put an Intel CPU on an AMD motherboard or vice versa? And it's not. So of course, whenever you're looking at a motherboard, it's always important to keep in mind that the motherboard, right, it has a socket, and that socket is all going to be specific to a certain type of CPU. So with AMD, the AM4 socket will allow you to install a wide range of Ryzen series CPUs, and that applies for, A520, B550, X570, right? And same thing for Intel. Intel will have specific chipsets, so like B660, Z690, that will support socket 1700 CPUs, but they're not cross-compatible. You can't buy an Intel CPU and put it on an AMD motherboard or vice versa. But we make an extensive range of motherboards so that regardless of whatever you're going to pick, whether it's an Intel or an AMD motherboard, we should be able to get you covered. So hopefully that should not be an issue or concern. Somebody is asking, oh, okay, this is a cool one. I haven't seen this question here. They're asking about the ROG IKEA desk. So yes, some people might not be aware. I can show it kind of right here. But we did actually launch a collaboration with IKEA where we have a range of different accessories. Depending on where you are, you may see essentially not having access to all of the different types of components, but definitely as we continue to move into 2022, you'll see more IKEA stores essentially expanding to get the broader set of accessories and different types of items that we've worked with them to be able to offer. So, the best thing you can do is one, check to see if it's available online. So right here, you can see they've got the gaming desk. You can click on it and you can go from there. And you can order it if you wanted to. You can see right here, it is deliverable. You can pick it, but in some locations, it may not be available, right? So just do keep in mind that it's not necessarily available in every single region or at every single store, but you also have online offerings, right? So I will drop that link in the chat for anybody that's aware, and we are excited to continue this collaboration with IKEA with more accessories, as well as also bringing you more accessories from ASUS itself in 2022. So as always, make sure to just keep it tuned, right? Let me see. Here's one last question right here. So the ROG Falchion keyboard, why does the keyboard sound different from your YouTube videos? So that's an interesting kind of question. So if you're somebody that likes the ASMR or kind of wondering about sound profile experience, do keep in mind a few things. One, every microphone sounds different. A lavalier mic to a condenser mic to a boomed mic, and even the actual hardware that it connects with, EQ settings, so many different parameters can affect that. The actual ambient room environment, there's so many different things can influence the way that you actually hear audio, right? Even different people actually have different wavelengths that they're actually more susceptible to, or actually have even preferences to, right? That they can pick up. Your headphones, your speakers are all going to sound differently. So it's hard to gauge that. The other thing that you may or may not realize is that we actually have two versions of the ROG Falchion. One is the ROG NX, and then there's the ROG standard Cherry MX. And those two switches are different, and they do have different sound signatures, right? Outside of, red to brown to blues, which are going to sound different, the ROG NX reds are going to sound different than the Cherry MX reds. So also keep that in mind. Okay. All right. I think that is going to cover us in terms of most of those questions there. I've got one last one right here. So it says, do you guys make a streaming webcam or a camera that you can recommend for streaming purposes? And yes, we definitely do. So I haven't actually talked about this guy in a little bit. So let me just go ahead and bring it up. Let me see if I have it here. Yeah. This is our current kind of focus model. This is the ROG IS. This is a 1080p 60 hertz webcam. So it's higher than your standard. And it actually also uses a higher quality sensor. It's the same type of sensor that's utilized actually in a lot of phones, which actually offers for better dynamic range, actually better autofocusing performance. And it also integrates a microphone. So you don't actually have to have an isolated microphone if you don't want to. It uses beamforming and also supports AI noise canceling. So it actually will even filter out ambient noise. So it is a kind of one-stop shop. Great option to be able to mount there directly on top of your monitor, or if you've got a laptop, you can also use it in a laptop situation. Now, as far as whether or not we're going to be coming out with, something that's on the higher resolution side, so even moving over to 4K. 4K is still not really that common when it comes to streaming, right? So, our goal was initially a higher refresh rate with 1080p at 60 hertz, along with improvement of the sensor. So that is a good option. But, as always, make sure to keep it tuned, and you'll see what we're going to be coming out with. Okay. Okay, Kevin, thanks. Fantastic to know that you've got the cup and it's working well for you. All right, guys, so let's get ready to go ahead and jump into our ASUS PCDIY Builders Spotlight, and we will get ready to talk about some pretty cool builds. We've actually got quite a number of builds this week. I don't even think I'm going to actually be able to get to all of them, so we're going to see how many we can jump into and talk about for our stream today. Let me go ahead and get these loaded up here. All right. And again, if you guys are interested in, of course, submitting your system for the ASUS PCDIY Builder Spotlight, all you got to do is make sure to essentially submit it via our Google form. I will make sure to link that in the description. And I can also drop, again, a link in the chat for those of you that are interested in joining our PCDIY group. It is a pinned announcement, so you can go ahead and just submit your system through the actual pinned announcement, and you will be able to have your system featured here on the stream. All right. Give me 1 second here to get a link here for our group. And I will drop that in the chat. All right. So first up, we've got one from, of course, one of my absolute favorite builders in the game, Sniff. Fantastic builder. It looks like we got Aeon. And we're going to see what he's got going on here. As always, I'm sure this is going to be a masterclass build. Stunning work that he always does here. Yeah. All right. So this is definitely already a beautiful build, right? So here we can see we've got a beautiful aesthetic, right? In terms of not only just great photography, but we've got this really nice white and purple theme. Of course, with Sniff, you're generally going to be seeing almost most of the time a water-cooled build. That's really where he shines in terms of just offering his skill and his expertise along with fabrication. He's a really strong fabricator at really offering kind of unique implementations, custom work that he does to be able to actually implement really cool and interesting lines. That is one thing that we actually see right off the bat, right? So normally you would see some type of distro mount over here, and you'd see a lot of my kind of more overlapping lines. But right here, what you can already see is that this is probably an entirely custom distro that he's implemented here. And with that distro, he then has ahead and has these really nice, cool, clean lines that are running in to be able to integrate into the vertical block here for the GPU. You can see another one here that's also going in the back. This one that's coming off from the CPU block also here. So really tight, clean, well integrated. I mean, this is just, what we would always expect from somebody like Sniff. Outstanding with the fit and the finish and the polish. Really, really nice level of execution. You'll also notice, if this is, of course, really well done, but you might not realize that the motherboard is modded. The motherboard, he's painted the motherboard. This is not a standard board that offers this color. So this is something that definitely Snuff has done quite a number of times, where he's painted the board. So he's actually gotten quite good at it. Always interesting to see when he does that. So let's take a look here. Very cool. I give a lot of credit here where, he's filled up the chassis really well. That's always one of the challenge when you get into bigger chassis, is actually using a lot of the space, not making it feel empty. And so here we can see there's a really nice sense of layout where we have things that are filled out, well balanced, but not necessarily, I'd say, overtly kind of stuffed, right? So you've got to focus at really clean, nice, minimal lines. In terms of kind of the way everything is routed. Even at this angled view, it's very tight and very clean. Love, of course, the custom cables right here. These look fantastic. I'm loving this purple that we've got there for the coolant. Again, you can see right here, this really nice integration into this little kind of distro right there we've got here on the back. And I think this is probably also custom. I'll look at his submission form, but makes me think that's what we got going on here. So beautiful right here. Just some really, really nice work. Again, just showing off the fit and finish and polish. So you can see one distro over here. There's another distro here, right? If we go back again, got the other distro right here, right? So, I mean, all over the place. Really, these just nice, tight levels of integration. We can see he's got something set up also with his classic dual monitor setup. So you can actually see that right here. He's got that whole little secondary display. I think that actually secondary display is coming out here from the graphics card. I love that he even went with that complementary color cable right here to be able to kind of fit the overall aesthetic for the whole chassis. And then here now we've got the RGB light set up. I definitely agree. Kevin's feedback right here is that the vertical mount is clean, and Andrew is that the lines, they're insane, and I agree. So I even like, I mean, both aesthetics look really, really nice here, where you talked about no RGB and then the RGB lighting. The white does really, I think, help to make the system pop even more, right? Where we've got the nice little illumination here, illumination there in the front, then that illumination there on the block along here with the top, and then of course have that just that shimmer that you get from the Trident Royals, right? Which just looks stunning. I think this system is probably look fantastic in the nighttime, right? It's going to look absolutely fantastic. So overall, you know, a beautiful build. And again, pretty much don't ever have anything negative to say on a SNEF build because the fit, finish, and the creative theme and the execution are fantastic. And again, here's the beautiful work on this custom type of distro block that you can see down here. This just shows you why you would want to get custom work done by him. It's beautifully done, right? Even these countersunk screws, oh man, that's just beautiful. I love that. I wonder, it'd be kind of cool to maybe see countersunk screws in a different color, but I think these perfectly complement the build here. Along with the fittings and everything else there. But this is just gorgeous. And then there you can see, of course, the board in all its modded glory, right? Looks like Omar Daly is letting us know, crazy build, very nice finish. I would definitely agree. This is a very nice build all the way around. So let's go ahead and take a look at his submission form. I'm going to leave it right there as I pull up his submission form. So give me 1 second, guys. And let's see what we got here in terms of specifics for this build. Oh, sorry, guys. Give me 1 second. There we go. And 1 sec here. Let me just make sure that I got to open this up here. All right, got the submission form up there. All right. So let's see here. This is going to be so this was a client-based build. It's a system that he set up for a client. So 3 words to describe the build here. We got pure, clean, and industrial design. Interesting. Okay. And then from there, pretty high-end hardware here. We've got a Ryzen 9 5950X, a pretty much flagship level Ryzen series processor. This is on a Crosshair 8 Dark Hero motherboard, but he painted it white with the chrome accents. We've got an ROG Strix 3090 white edition. I'm going to shed a little bit of a tear there for that white edition card that is under that beautiful block, but that block looks fantastic. It looks really nice there in the vertical implementation right there. That's all being run off of a 1200 watt power supply, a Thor 1200 watt. That's inside the Thermaltake chassis, which is a P6. He's got, let's see, Trident Royals, 3600 megahertz, along with a couple of Samsung Pro and Evo drives, Cable Mod Pro cables, all EK hardware throughout when you're seeing kind of things like the motor block and the fittings that are present there. But as I did note, the distro and the reservoir are custom that he's done himself, which is one of the big things that why I consider not just SNEF an amazing builder, but truly a modder and a fabricator, right? He really brings his expertise and his experience to really be able to have a strong identity within his builds, and that's very much evident. So the client actually provided all the core hardware for the system, so no defined budget that was there. Color combination is what he was most proud of, and the integration of the active backplate in the tight space. So that's very interesting. So when he's talking actually about the active backplate, we don't see it right here, But if we take a very tight crop in here, right, he's got this mount pressed up pretty much right against the board. So that was, I'm sure, a challenge to be able to get it to fit very tightly, because the active backplate does add some thickness to the card, right, to the rear side of the card. But here he wanted, I'm assuming, that best thermal performance. So he's got the active backplate, and he does have that really tight in there. But you can see actually how tight this is there, because in a lot of situations, the card's going to actually be a little bit further out, and you would see actually more separation between here and here. So there'd actually be a little bit of kind of depth and foreground, and you don't have that here. It's a very tight level of integration. Okay. Anything that he would change about the build? Maybe add some etching on the windows. That could be kind of cool. That could be some interesting kind of design. How long did it take to do the system? With all the Fusion 360 design work, CNC finishing, about 70 to 80 hours. So again, that just shows you really kind of the level of commitment that is done here when you have a really masterclass builder at work here. What is the system used for? Pretty much video editing and rendering and some gaming. His favorite feature that he likes about ASUS setup in terms of the boards is the Armory crate, making his overall experience really easy when it comes to just being able to get, the drivers all installed, the utilities, and then, getting it all synchronized and getting everything managed in terms of the lighting and the software. So, Snef, fantastic build. My hats come off again to you, man. Another masterclass build. Really, really great build. And I'm sure the client is absolutely overjoyed with this. It looks fantastic. So Raphael says, wicked custom distros. I would 100% agree. Very, very cool. Hey, Omar, just found out about the Facebook group, posted a few photos of my build. Awesome, man. Thanks for being part of Team RG and Team Cross here. I'm definitely looking forward to your post there. I'll definitely make sure to go ahead and follow up to it. And if you've got a cool small form factor build, always interested in showing those off. So feel free to go ahead and submit that for the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, man. So thank you so much. Hey, lag me 20. I'm wondering, in Netherlands, ASUS Netherlands providers must allow customers to use their own modem. So we actually do make a couple of modems. It's not generally our focus. We generally find that most users prefer to kind of get their own modems because they have to go through a lot of validation through the ISP services. So our goal generally is more so to produce the routers that work alongside with the modem. We do have a cable modem that is available. I don't know if it's available in your region, but I would say if you want to be able to kind of improve your wired and wireless connectivity, you can, of course, get your own cable modem, fiber modem, and then from there run it out to the WAN input on any one, of course, of our wide range of Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6E routers to be able to kind of upgrade the experience. If you're looking maybe for a recommendation, maybe consider checking out the RT-AX86, the GT-AX6000. Those are two really, really cool units. If you're looking for something maybe a little bit more price aggressive, maybe check out the RT-AX82U. Okay. Hey, PC, thanks for joining us, man. Happy to have you here, man. Thanks so much. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and take a look at our next build here, and let's keep this moving along. All right, so next, let's see here. Okay, actually, I've got a cool one here. This is actually going to be just a very quick one. This is going to be actually a monitor spotlight. So this is something I have not yet actually opened up in terms of the, excuse me, I haven't opened this up yet in terms of the submission form. So just make sure to keep it tuned. You'll be seeing this in the not too distant future, guys, but there will actually be an opportunity for those of you specifically just want to highlight your kind of cool monitor setups. We'll also be introducing that into the PC DIY Builders Spotlight as well. So this is going to be right here, Obsessed from Skywarp. Right. And he's got a very cool multi-monitor setup here featuring 4 ASUS gaming monitors. And to throw in something extra, he's got a pretty cool ROG Chariot chair here. So you can definitely see he's a big fan of Street Fighter and Apex Legends, right? And so he's got those 3 monitors there in a surround configuration, along with then an additional monitor. You can tell there, of course, with his key light in the background that he's definitely a streamer. So he does some streaming online, and he's got his Chariot and his, of course, gaming system, which does even feature, I believe, an ROG Strix LC cooler. So overall, this is a very cool setup, and he's actually using the standard mounts. So maybe the only thing that I would recommend to Skywarp Here, in terms of the setup, if he wanted to be able to actually save a little bit of room here in terms of desk space, is he might want to consider our desk clamp. So we did release an actual cool ROG desk mount. So it's actually a clamp that you could replace this base with to be able to free up a little bit more space in terms of your very cool setup. But man, this is a really cool setup. Love the wallpaper. Love the overall kind of look and feel that you've got right here. Very cool. So in case you're wondering right here, what the actual desk mount is, let me see if I can pull it up right here. I've got it right here. Okay, cool. So this is the AC, excuse me, the ACL01. And you'll see it right here. It attaches to the base of the monitor. And you can simply kind of add it in like that, put the monitor on top of it. It's compatible with a wide range of our RG monitors, and you'll be good to go. So that might be maybe something that you want to add to your setup, but otherwise, pretty cool, man. Very nice setup. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look here at our next system. See here. This is a pretty cool one right here. This is going to be, I believe, Cirrus. Yes. All right, so let's take a look here at Cirrus's build. This is going to be from Jean. All right, so let's take a look here. Oh, very interesting. All right, this is pretty cool. So this is going to be a pretty interesting build. So it's quite compact, actually. It's deceptive in terms of actually the hardware, but if you take a look inside here, you'll see that this is actually a mini ITX board. This is not an ATX system. So this is a small form factor system. We've got some very kind of creative approaches right here in terms of how things have been laid out. So this is using a, of course, PCIe riser cable to be able to implement the graphics card vertically. I'm kind of torn. It's kind of cool to be able to give it a different aesthetic, and definitely here from the complementary lines that you've got, where you've got the block here for the CPU and then one for the GPU. I can see why you went with the vertical to kind of have this cool, interesting approach. I'm generally a little bit more fan of a vertical based design, and I think the vertical design, you're probably is going to, excuse me, a horizontal design as opposed to vertical, but I think the vertical does work a little bit better, because if you went horizontal, you'd have a little bit more of this empty space that you'd have to kind of figure out what you would want to do within this chassis. So, you know, either which way, you know, I think it works out here, and your runs are really nice. They're clean, they're tight, they're well integrated. Cables could be kind of just smidged out, just maybe a little bit tightened up there in the back, so you wouldn't necessarily see those, but otherwise, really, really nicely done. I love the color scheme here for these cables, these blue and white cables that tie in the rest of the look and feel right here. Got the little bit of kind of purple and green there to be able to add a little bit of a different vibe to the overall look and feel for the system. But this is definitely a cool system when we talk about kind of a small form factor build. So let's go ahead and keep taking a look here. Here we've got it in the blue as opposed to kind of the different color scheme. I like it actually even more so here with this kind of almost all blue and then just a little bit of an accent color. It'd be interesting to see it entirely kind of all in the blue vibe, but I think this definitely works. We got some nice little touch right there in the black. I'm loving a little bit how the light plays off there with a little bit of the translucentness. The satin kind of fittings look really, really nice. And the Vadar fans that we got here from EK also really, really look great within this build. And the cool thing too here is with this Fantex block and the EK Vadar, all of this can be directly controlled and synced through ASUS Aura Sync. So everything is controllable there. We're going to see in a moment here actually which chassis he's actually running right here. You can see we've got the pump res right here. That's all running in, very nicely run in. Very cool kind of setup that we've got in terms of the overall layout. And again, nice and clean, well done. And nice use of space here also, where you can see that he's using the bracket, a fan mount bracket, to be able to put the reservoir on top of the fan mount bracket. Only disadvantage sometimes of these brackets is sometimes you can get a little bit of vibration. So sometimes I find that my tip is sometimes I might need to put a washer just to be able to kind of help to counteract some vibration that the fan might have. But it depends on the thickness and the rigidity of the fan and how much vibration you might have. So that kind of just plays around. But overall, this is a good use of space right here. And then we got some nice clean close-up shots. This is really well done. Oh, I really like this color scheme. this kind of green and yellow mix with a little bit of the blue. That's definitely my vibe. Oh, that purple. What do you guys think? Is this your favorite here? The purple? I'm really liking that purple, but the blue looks really nice. I mean, I don't know which one you guys like. That's a very nice setup either which way. So we'll maybe leave it right there on that shot right there. That's a very cool shot as we go ahead and take a look at his submission form right here. So give me 1 second right here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. So we'll show in a moment here. So Robert says he likes blue the most in terms of the setup. Hey, Kamar is asking here, will you guys ever get the 3080 Gundam Edition GPUs back in stock? No. And the reason why is it was a limited edition production. It's no longer an active production. So it is not available in North America anymore. I think the only things that we're actively replenishing within North America in terms of stock are some of the peripherals. So I think chassis, like the keyboard and mouse, I think the Gundam mouse pad that we also have is also in active production. I don't even think the headset is in active production. I'd have to double check on that, but I can definitely tell you on the GPU and the motherboard side, those are no longer in active production. So those were pretty much only available for a short period of time, and then once they were essentially gone, they were gone. So for some of those, it's definitely going to always be that when there is a kind of limited IP collaboration, and we are going to actually have some more in 2022. So if you guys are interested in some cool collaborative IPs that are going to be coming out, make sure to keep it here to the PCDIY live stream. We talked about that when those products were coming out, when they were going to be available, and gave you guys updates in that respect. So let me go ahead and bring up his submission form right here. So Omar Daly says, good note on the dampeners. Yeah, I use some on my fans and water reservoir to minimize any vibrations as well. Yeah, it's something that I think a lot of kind of builders sometimes don't necessarily always realize, but it is a really easy way that you can help to mitigate unwanted kind of vibrations. So let me go ahead and bring up his submission form. So give me 1 second, guys, here. And we'll bring up his system back up here. We'll let everybody kind of take a look at that. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so this is going to be Sean's build right here. This is not his first build. Does his build have a theme? Yes, a snow white, navy blue, and chrome and silver. Okay, cool. Yeah, I definitely think that he hit all those points on there. He's definitely presented quite a number of different color themes within the build. Here, I've got one that actually I think maybe doesn't align as perfectly with that because I see definitely greens in here, where maybe if we're going more for that blue vibe, maybe let me see if we go back. This one, I really love this purple as well, but let's go back to his blue because that he felt that was his theme. So let's go with that as the overall theme picture right here. 3 words to describe the build is clean, cool, and silent. Cirrus right here is going to be for the theme, the name of his system. And this is going to be the ROG Strix Z390-I at the core of the system with the Core i9-9900K. So he's definitely got a high core count CPU, definitely with the water cool setup in there. I'm assuming that he's probably got a pretty nice overclock on there. And that's also running in conjunction with a 2080 Super graphics card. His aspect that he's most proud of the build is the overall cooling performance, but definitely on this system, in a small form factor system, he's going to have great cooling performance for the CPU and for the graphics card. He'd maybe want to be able to replace the pump in the reservoir with a new distro plate. That's interesting. I think, yeah, maybe, I mean, a distro plate could be kind of interesting. You still have to figure out where you end up putting your pump in your res, right? If you went that route. I think the actual setup that you have right here is not a bad setup. I think it looks pretty cool. One thing that might be interesting is that if you could get somebody to fabricate you a custom distro plate down here that you could add in for an aesthetic, that could be kind of cool. But if you did do that, I almost might want to go back and, like I said, make this horizontal and then add more space here to play around with the visual aesthetic. But I think this looks really cool. I would probably maybe just add something right here that would be maybe for more of a look kind of element than maybe more so for a functional element. You could also paint this if you wanted to, although the black does go pretty well with some of the black components right here, where you could actually change this to a different color, where you could do this white and try to maybe match that up, maybe sheathe those cables there, and then, or like I said, pull them out a little bit and hide that up. But I don't think you have to go with the distro plate. I think this works really well. And actually, I like the look of how this comes hard lines into this integrated pump res that you've got right there. So I don't know. It could work either which way. How long did it take you to put together the system? About a week right here. Predominantly uses it for photo and video editing, 3D rendering, distributed computing, some gaming. He likes playing Crysis, also Cyberpunk and Metro Exodus. All right, definitely some cool games right there. His favorite function or feature is going to be the ASUS Aura Sync and the ASUS UEFI BIOS. He loves the ability to be able to control everything through Armory Crate for that ASUS Aura Sync RGB life, and then that UEFI functionality that he's got to be able to kind of tweak and control his system. So overall, very cool, man. Thumbs up. I really like this. It's a really nice build and overall setup. Oh, let me double check here because yeah, somebody was asking there about his component here. I don't know if he listed out the chassis. He didn't note that, but I do think, yes, that is going to be, I think, the Mini. Okay. Raphael is asking, is ASUS and Noctua going to make a 3080? We have no plans at this time. Right now, the only Noctua Edition Series graphics card that we have is going to be the 3070. So if you're looking for something higher end, whether it's going to be the 3080, 3080 Ti, 3090, then you're going to want to look at our ROG Strix series cards or the ROG Strix LC series. Those would be the two other cards that we offer within that high-end segmentation, although we also do have the TUF Gaming series too. Okay. Let's go ahead and take a look at our next build here. Okay. Oh, let me see if I can rotate this image because we've got a cool build here, but I want to be able to. Not the greatest if it's not a native orientation, but I guess we'll have to make it work with what we got there. Yeah, it doesn't do the greatest there, but let's go with it. Let's see what we got right here. So we've got a very cool build right here. This is going to be using actually a WS series board. And one of the really cool things I always like seeing about these builds is going to be when we've got systems that are featuring a WS, you kind of really know that the focus here is going to be all about kind of productivity, right? So that's always one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of these systems. So let me bring this up here. And all right, so this is going to be Project Midar. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly here. This is from Philip here. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here from this. I think this is actually from Polymorph Computers. So this is going to be here with a WS series motherboard, and we've got a lot of soft tubing, really cool, interesting kind of layout right here. This is an HEDT platform. So this is a high-end desktop-based platform-based motherboard, or ASUS WS series. You can see that they're not using the vertical M.2, not any SATA right here. So I'm assuming, I don't know yet what the storage configuration is right here, but we've got 2 GPUs, right? Some interesting kind of setup here. And here, I think kind of the focus was just to be able to have water-cooled performance, right? Where you're going to have a system that's probably going to be heavily loaded, consistently rendering, maybe running science and simulation, GPU compute. I don't know what the configuration is. We'll take a look here in a little bit, but definitely built for performance. Got a nice beefy setup there. Of course, we got your radiator, you got your fans right here, the soft tubing, which the big benefit, I'm actually a bigger fan of soft tubing than I am of hardline. Hardline could look really cool, but it's more complicated, more expensive. It's not as easy to maintain. It's not as forgiving. And also, I don't like that you can't necessarily be as flexible. I mean, really creative builders can do some really cool stuff, but generally for the fluidity of lines, it's going to be better for soft tubing. But overall, very interesting. Let's go ahead and continue taking a look right here. Here we can see that nice big PCH that we've got on that WS board. We've got down right here running in parallel. So we got a point right there, another point that's going to run it in, another point that's going in there. And then right here up the top, we've got our pump res combo, just running probably some distilled water. That entirely works right there. Oh, I like it just with a little bit of the lighting. just a little bit of the lighting. I'm a fan of that. Here we can see that's before the actual yeah, so Michael would agree those hard bends aren't fun either. Yeah, and actually one of the bigger challenges. Well, of course, you also have to be careful a little bit for bends when you're doing them through soft tubing. That's also one of the other things. If you do kind of a bend that's not right, you can actually have prone to kind of fitment issues with your fittings. You can also have cracking and kind of some other issues where really the biggest issue you have to worry about with the soft tubing is just making sure that you're essentially not having some form of like a crimp or you're not overtly kind of extending that out. So it's also kind of just overall safer in terms of maximizing the overall performance as well. So, but very cool. I also like the classic dominators in here, these classic dominator DDR4s where there's no RGB. You just got that nice metal heatsink that's on there. This board, this WS board, I think on this model has it's either 6 or 7 PCI Express slots. So it's definitely purpose oriented. You'll see some things that might be a little bit hard here. This is a vertical M.2 right here. There's also U.2 that's on this motherboard. If we go back, you can see actually there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the PCI slots that are on this board. So it's really purpose built. This is part of our Sage series, which used to be actually quite popular with actually higher end overclockers, but kind of shifted away when we started to see less kind of multi-GPU kind of configurations, but still popular for those people that really want a board that's purpose built for productivity and professionals. But I actually really like this kind of cool, just no nonsense aesthetic built for performance and the overall kind of feature set that this kind of board and system has. So very cool. So let's see right here. So yeah, Omar Daly loves the blacked out aesthetic. That's a workstation right there. I 100% agree right there. Andrew notes, now that is a perfect industrial stealth look, and with the soft tubing, I prefer that look. Non-see-through pipes, very creative and filled out. Yep. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and check out. Let's see what we got here for the specs of our system. So this is going to be, you see right here. Does the build have a theme? Blackout, non-RGB minimalism, inspired and named after, yeah, so DKS3. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Dark Eater, yeah, Midder. And then what are 3 words that you would describe this build? Is Redshift Render Beast. Okay, so Redshift Render Beast, that makes sense in terms of kind of the intent there. So that you definitely know this is going to be for productivity purpose, right? Content creation. So let me see here in terms of our core specifications, what we've got right here. So this is going to be running a Core i9 7920X. I think that's 24 threads that it's going to be on that processor. It was an X299 Sage series motherboard. It was running 32 gigabytes of 3000 megahertz memory. Then 2 3080 Ti's that are on there. Then we've got, let's see, 2 terabyte M.2 SSDs, I believe. Actually, no, 2.5 inch SSDs. And then also another Samsung 512 gigabyte, and then another 1 terabyte drive. So a good amount of storage in there. A 1000 watt power supply from Seasonic. That's all inside of a Corsair 7000D. He's got the noise blockers, which are a great choice of fans there. 12 of them for pretty much serving all of the airflow that you're going to have. And then EK is pretty much filling out the rest of the water cooling hardware with the Coolstream PE and then Coolstream XC, which would be for his res. And then Singularity computers there for the actual reservoir. So overall, pretty awesome build and set of specifications right there. So what is he most proud of is it being a kind of a completely inaudible workstation. So despite housing those 2 3080 Ti's and then the 7920X, thanks to the 2 480 reses and the 360, excuse me, yeah, the 240 and the 360 and the 12 noise blockers, he's got those running at a very tight and low RPM, which that's the benefit of going with larger radiators, right? Is the displacement and being able to run at low RPM. So 500 to 800 RPM is his tuned value. So that means that the system is pretty much almost inaudible. And the great thing about a water-cooled system is the delta of the temperature between idle and load is quite low, right? So it's not a huge load like it is with an air-cooled system, where when you go from idle to load, the delta between the fan speed is actually quite a bit higher, so you actually hear more whirling. And with a water-cooled system, it's going to be quite a bit tighter, and you can keep the system, even a high-performance system, generally very cool and also quiet. He also really liked the actually organic look of the ZMT spaghetti growing out of the bottom. I agree. It's a cool look that's on the system. Maybe actually switch it out to an X2 from an X299 system to a Threadripper platform, or maybe a newer generation Intel-based platform. Took him about a week together to put it all together. Main items that the system is used for is Cinema 4D, the Adobe Suite, and Redshift. His favorite ASUS function or feature there, he loves that the board has actually dual Intel NICs on there, the PLX chips there, which allowed for multiplexing for more PCIe slots, tons of connectivity with SATA, U.2 ports, a Thunderbolt expansion card, which he's got in there, USB 3.2, and yeah, like I said, a total of 8 PCI by 16 slots on this motherboard. So overall, very cool, man. Polymorph, kudos, man. This is a fantastic build. And you can definitely also check out more of their awesome systems by checking out their Instagram. So I will go ahead and also link that there in the chat if you guys want to check that out there. All right. So very cool, man. Polymorph computers, man. Very, very cool build. Kudos, man. I love it. It's, a system that's been built for functionality, for performance. And I love the fact that we've got quiet operation there too. Okay, so let's go ahead and see what we've got next in here. Yes, actually, we've got a cool build here. This is going to be from, I believe, one that we've been hoping to get here for a little bit, but I had to get updated pictures from this submitter. So let me go ahead and get this one loaded up here. This is going to be from Troy, and I believe this is going to be named Power Plant. Yes. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and bring this guy up here. Oh, am I missing? Hopefully I'm not missing any. Oh, I got one more image right here. Give me 1 second. Where is that one? Okay, there we go. Got them all now. All right, very cool. All right, let's see what we got going on here. Oh, okay, cool. Very, very cool. So we've got a pretty cool setup right here. You can see we've got multiple ROG monitors set up right here. These are actually, I believe, the Gundam monitors. So he was really lucky in terms of being able to pick these up. We've got, looks like also like the Moonlight White Edition ROG Strix Scope TKL keyboard, the ROG Strix Impact mouse, and then the Batless Qi Wireless Edition RGB gaming surface, and then a sweet system right here, of course, in the classic 011, right? So got an ROG Strix graphics card, ROG Strix board, and ROG Strix LC series cooler, all in that RGB vibe. Very cool, very clean setup. Definitely a little bit tight. I think in this setup, it would be pretty cool to actually get those implemented with the desk mount kit. I think the desk mount kit would actually look pretty cool in this regard. So it might be something I would maybe consider to give yourself a little bit more space right here, just in terms of the overall kind of look. But this is definitely a very cool looking setup right here. So let's see right here. Got a cool setup. Got let's see, nice placement. I like the always over at top placement right here. Got some nice little RGB vibes right there. Got, of course, your Trident Royals right there and vertical mount. I'm always a fan of the horizontal mount. I think it shows off a little bit more of the board, and you'd see that really nice RGB light bar. Here, the lighting that you've got, it's nice in terms that it shines through on the card, and you get to see the nice white of the card. But I think I would personally like that a little bit more. And you'd still have that nice fill at the bottom there from the fans, but this definitely does work. And then you've also, it looks like you've added a kind of cool little stat panel right there, or kind of little like screen there in the back, which is kind of cool. Very clean. Well done right there. You know, if you wanted to maybe add something, you could maybe consider adding, you know, maybe some heat shrink right there, maybe some white heat shrink to be able to go and maybe have that be a little bit more themed right there, but it's not critical. It's still very clean. It's well executed. I like you added in the little ROG badge that came in right there. Clean wire management overall throughout. Nothing is kind of obstructed or blocking each other. So that all definitely works well right there. Here we've got another little bit of a different look in a different color scheme with the blue. I like the blue. Actually, I like the green. I could go blue either round. I think both of them look really, really nice. So they're both nice setups and overall got a nice look and feel. So overall, it's clean. It's well executed. I like the layout. It's functional. And of course, it's just a great combination of hardware with a really nice ROG themed setup. So definitely no complaints on that side. Like I said, the only thing that I would maybe consider is I'd love to see what it looks like there within that, you know, more traditional orientation. But definitely within your theme here, I can see that what you're focusing on is kind of giving you this nice kind of consistent white theme from top to bottom with that green accents, which is perfectly done here. So very cool overall, nicely done. Looks like Evo definitely agrees. He likes the overall look right there. Geekbench guy says it's fantastic right here. So overall, very cool. So Omar saying is what's the airflow on that build? So yeah, it looks like here for that, he looks like are both intaking. Yeah, it looks like it might be. I mean, you know, what you'll actually find a lot of times is the actual measurement values. There's actually not that much large of a difference. A lot of times this users actually, I think, overthink airflow considerations. As long as it's not any heavy obstructions, it really actually becomes a bit more so about how dust might play into the system more so than necessarily cooling differences, where if you measured kind of performance, you generally are not going to find that large of a difference in terms of cooling performance. The only time that I would say that maybe you would be more mindful of one configuration versus another is how airflow can sometimes affect maybe maximizing certain characteristics. So an example of this is if you have an intake, you actually do get directional airflow that will come down across the VRM heat sinks, and you actually can get lower temperatures, and it can actually also provide even lower temperatures to DRAM. If you traditionally have your fan set up in, let's say, the exhaust characteristic, you generally don't get that, even though that is probably the more common type of top-mounted fan configuration. Doesn't mean one is necessarily better than another. No. But I can definitely tell you that there are going to be sometimes specific value to being able to run that fan in, let's say, an intake configuration versus an exhaust. So it is kind of something to just kind of keep in mind, right? I will give you an interesting fact is that when we do our thermal assessment, though, on our VRM assembly take, for instance, we do it actually in a zero airflow characteristic. So we actually check to make sure that the VRM heatsink works with zero airflow. That means you could get even better performance than what we initially test for if there is airflow that is being provided to the VRM, but it's not necessarily quote unquote a requirement. Okay. Andrew Gaze, beautifully clean, very, very nice, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here and see what we've got in terms of his Builder Spotlight submission. So this is from Troy. Power plant is what we got. This was actually Troy's first build, man. So you know what? It's got a little bit of a clap for me, man, because that's a very nice job on your first build. It's clean, it's well executed, good overall layout, and actually good theme execution too. So definitely this is quite a bit better than some first-time builds that I see. So I would definitely give you a big thumbs up, man. Nicely done. So 3 words to describe his build: powerful, unique, and beautiful. Definitely very nice. Does the build have a name? Yep, Power Plant. In terms of the cord hardware, he's running some latest gen hardware right here. So this is an ROG Strix Z690 D4. So that means the DDR4 version of the motherboard. 12th gen Core i9, so 12900K, and ROG Strix 3080 White Edition. So yeah, definitely some very nice hardware that we've got in right here. Overall, about $5,000 for the budget of the system. He's most proud all the way around for his entire build and his entire setup. Nothing that he would look to change from his hardware or his setup. Took him about 8 hours to put it all together. He does a bit of video editing and gaming, ranging from GTA 5 to Cyberpunk to Forza, Jurassic World Evolution 2. And overall, looks to definitely be enjoying some very nice gaming on this system, especially with the high-end hardware that we've got there. And his favorite feature function is going to be ASUS Aura Sync, part of Armory Crate, as well as the overall ability to kind of customize the lighting through ASUS Aura Sync and Armory Crate and Aura Creator. Overall, man, Troy, very nice build, gets a solid thumbs up, and definitely a big thumbs up for this being your first build. So kudos, man, all the way around. All right, so that's going to be another build in the books there. All right, so let's see here. What do we got next? Um, hmm. Do, 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 do. Oh, I like this TUF Gaming build. Got a lot of water cooled builds, although that was just also a standard build, so that was kind of cool to see. So always, I try to usually have a mix of air cooled and water cooled, a little bit of kind of everything, and not necessarily always want to have just water cooling. But we get a lot of different submissions, and I try to make sure that we include pretty much any submission that comes in that qualifies. So let's go ahead and go with our next one here from Mike. All right, this is going to be Mike. Mike's got a TUF Gaming setup here. All right. Okay, so this is going to be, I think the title gives it away, right, guys? So this is going to be a TUF Gaming build, right? Featuring some EK hardware, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so right off the bat, I'm already liking this. This is kind of clean, no nonsense. Kind of just really nicely laid out. I like kind of the decisions right here in terms of what's been done. So he's actually using the TUF Gaming GT501 chassis. So this is actually one of the chassis that ASUS makes right here. I like the simple and effective layout, right? Again, we've got the nice soft tubing right here, ZMT tubing. So here you can see you've got the distro, right? You got this running right here to the top, one running down to the GPU, then one running down right here through this PSU shroud. He went ahead and cut the shroud open to be able to give some visibility to the Thor PSU, which is kind of interesting. That's kind of cool. And then from there, we can also see, it looks like this is probably the quick drain, which is kind of cool. I'm always interested in seeing where the quick drain is going to be present. And a nice, just high quality block right here to be able to keep everything nice and cool. So this is all running our TUF Gaming series motherboard. This looks like probably the TUF Gaming Plus, not the Pro model. But this is definitely, like, I'd say, a strong value system, right? So we've got X570, but definitely not the highest X570 board that we have, but showing you can get a great system, water cooled performance, right? Stable operation, right? And kind of really focusing on having a clean, well-represented system in terms of the overall design, right? Nice theme. But I think really the focus here is going to be stability, reliability, cooling performance, and without necessarily, quote unquote, breaking the bank, right? Without having to go to like an ROG crosshair board, going to, hard lines, or going with double redundant reservoirs and all that stuff. This setup is still going to give you great thermal performance and really does, I think, a good job of mixing out the core components that are present here. So I'm a big fan of that. Let's see right here what we got. Let me go ahead and see here. So let's keep looking right here. Yep, we got Vector TUF right here. So EK block on the card. Nice little angle right here. Okay, so interesting. We got some of the ROG fans that are in there. We got a different color scheme right here with red versus the blue. What are you guys digging? Do you guys like the blue or do you guys like the red? Red is always hard in terms of images. I think red always looks best in person. Blue comes up a little bit better, I think, sometimes in photos, but I actually like both. I think it almost kind of depends on your vibe and kind of your feel. Blue is always going to be a little bit more of that kind of like relaxed kind of vibe, while red's got a little bit more of that power vibe that you kind of got it going on. So maybe it's like, red when I'm serious about doing something that requires some performance, and maybe blue when I'm just, checking my email and watching some videos online, right? So it kind of works either which way, but it's cool, it's clean, it's well executed and functional. This is definitely actually my kind of build. I'm a big fan of this. So let me go ahead and see right here. Yeah, so Robert says that he likes the blue, lets the black tubing blend in a bit better. I think you're right. I think that it does work well, but black and red has really been a classic combo that's been proven and works really, really well. But I do think that the nice kind of blue lighting pattern gives it a little bit of kind of that, Tron vibe, which is kind of interesting and kind of works well as well. Yeah, the interesting thing too is saying can leave it blue the whole time, right? Is that you could also just use Armory Crate and use our profile option, which means that you could link the lighting profile to different applications. So let's say you opened up your web browser or you opened up a game and you could change it to one color scheme. And then when you opened up, let's say, Premiere, it would go to a different color scheme. So that's actually one of the cool things you can do in the Armory Crate software is you can tune your RGB profiles to different applications and you can have it change dynamically based on whatever application you're opening up, right? So let's go ahead and take a look here at the submission form and we'll see what we got going on. So this is going to be from Mike. Does the build have a theme? Let's see. Yeah. Balancing ASUS and EK hardware. 3 words to describe the build: original, futuristic, and aggressive. Does it have a name? Yes. EK TUF Gaming. What do we got here in terms of hardware? So we got a GT501 and X570 Pro motherboard, actually the Pro, not the Pro 2. TUF Gaming RGB fans that are going to be in there. TUF Gaming 3070 graphics card, which is going to be water cooled. A Thor 850 watt power supply. He's got ROG fans in there, 140 millimeter times 4. So he's probably pulled those out of something else, maybe like Helios chassis or something else to be able to get those because we don't sell those independently. TUF Gaming Alliance memory right there. So he's got 32 gigabytes, 3200 megahertz memory, CL16. He's also got the TUF Gaming Alliance 1 terabyte Gen 4 M.2 SSD, and then Team Group 1 terabyte Vulcan Gaming SSD. That's all running from a CPU of a Ryzen 5 5600. He's also got some additional Chromax fans in there, 3 of them, 120 millimeter, and then EK pretty much throughout, ranging from the, of course, soft tubing to the fittings, to the extenders and the drain fittings, Coolstream SE radiators, and he's got one 360 and then also 240 res, and then of course the D5 pump that's in there, and then that's a vector block that is of course going to be for the TUF Gaming graphics card. He's also got the backplate on there as well, and then a Velocity 2 for the CPU. And then he did add in, we see down here, he's got a thermal take brace right there for there, and then Corsair ARGB LED strips, and then he's just got some miscellaneous extension wires. So all the way around build, $3,200. So yeah, that's a really good balance, like I said, of having high-end hardware, but not going crazy in terms, I think, of everything that we've got in there. I think he actually probably even went a little bit more than he needed to in terms of the reservoirs, but that is just going to give you a little bit more thermal dissipation performance. But I think you actually could have done the whole thing with just one 360 res, and you'd be fine. But most proud of is the overall harmony of the hardware and the theme, the overall aesthetics. He's really happy with the way they turned out. The lighting highlights without being too overbearing, so not too much RGB lighting. The stealthy cool loop that runs the backside of the case and the top radiator to the reservoir, and the fact that his pump res fit perfectly in this location with the ability to hide it and reveal it with the PSU shroud. So what he's actually referring to right here is that here, the actual pump in the res is hidden underneath there. And so you can expose that for more lighting if you wanted to. So let me see here. If we go to one of the images, we might be able to see it. Yeah, so you can see right here in this image, you can remove that little cover and you could expose that if you wanted a little bit more lighting, right? But he was able to get that all situated in there perfectly and have that fit in there. So I definitely agree. That looks great in terms of that. He also liked the customization they did there, be able to give the visibility, the Thor OLED display, and then the drain worked out amazing and was flawless. So he was also really happy with all the way around in terms of the cable management. And I'm assuming right here is probably where the drain is at, right? Anything they would change about the build? Nope. They love the way it turned out. Took him about 4 days to complete it. This is actually a system that he actually put together for his actual shop. So cool. So it's actually a system that demonstrates actually what he's doing for being able to put together systems for his customers right there. And he's a big fan of ASUS altogether. Just stellar products. I've owned many ASUS components over the years, and he wishes us best of luck, as we also wish you the best of luck, man. So kudos very much. Looks like it is H2O Computers 808. If you're interested in getting a system done by him. So overall, man, kudos, man. Very cool, and very cool submission, man. Thanks for go ahead and submitting it here. So yeah, again, H2O Computers 808, man. Very nice build. Yeah, so it's asking it changed per app. Yes, that's correct. So yeah, if you go into the Armory Crate software, you can go ahead and change that per app. Let me see if I can load this up quickly here before we get to our next submission. Let's see. I'm on a laptop, but it pretty much works the same here. Okay, so here, if you look right here, I'm in Armory Crate, and so what you would actually go to is this little tab right here. So it's called Scenario Profiles, and so you can actually have multiple scenario profiles, but you can see right here, see apps to link. So you could actually go here, it would scan your system, and it will let you actually know which apps. So you could see right here, like, hey, whatever I'm going ahead and open up, right, whatever it might be, I can click on that app, and then once I open that app, you can have all kinds of different customization profiles. So you could have different things set for like your fan profiles. You could have different types of audioable profiles set. You can also see right here that the lighting modes, you can go ahead and set different types of lighting modes that you could configure it in different ways. So yeah, so you can go ahead and adjust the actual lighting profile based on what you're doing. So that's actually cool. That's actually how I have my RGB lighting set up. So like I have my RGB lighting change for like when I'm reading email, or if I'm doing something maybe basic and I don't want, as versus maybe something else, I actually have it set up in a different configuration. Okay, so let me see right here. Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, so let's go, and we've probably got time for maybe 1 or 2 more builds here. Let me see right here. Oh, I'm a fan of this one. This is a little bit more of a simple kind of build, but simple, still some very nice hardware though. So let's go ahead and take a look right here. This is going to be a Moonlight White ROG. Okay, so let's take a look here. So we've got a very kind of cool system right here in terms of the overall layout. So again, we're going with the kind of the infamous O11, very common in terms of a lot of people kind of liking the chassis. We've got some cable combs going on here, nice clean routing right here. This is fine. Split tail connection. Some people are going to say you need to have individuals. It's not a requirement. It's really all about the quality of your power supply and the quality of the cables. If these are extensions versus native cables, that might be one thing you would want to keep in mind, but that's not necessarily critical. At the end of the day, you can always run a stability test and just verify that under full load that the that the system is powering those correctly. But this is a cool kind of clean layout. I think for me, though, personally from the look, I would probably favor having 2 independent ones, but this definitely does work. This overall laid out, it's very clean. Cables are well done right here. This cable, probably, maybe if you really want to get a little bit more tight, what you could try to do right here is it would require some work, but you could stuff that in there maybe a little bit more to be a little bit tighter. One way that you can sometimes do that is you can actually unscrew the back of the heatsink, lift the heatsink a little bit and kind of put it underneath there, and then screw the heatsink back in to kind of press it into place. If you wanted to use it kind of that route. You could also get creative if you really wanted to. You could remove this shroud and you could run the cable under and through the shroud, and then put the shroud back on and then pull it out through the top. So that is another way that you can sometimes play around with cable management and run that out, but it works. And when you pull it out from the further side, you don't really notice it. So I don't really think it's too much of an issue. I mean, like right here, you're not really seeing that that's detracting from it. This is still really clean and well managed in terms of the cable design and the cable management. It's cool that you added in the ROG sticker. You put it on top of one of the actual fans, so that's kind of a cool setup. You got that nice team group white memory right there. You also use the sticker right there. That looks really nice. I mean, it's clean and it's well set up, right? Like in that ASUS monitor down there in the back. And there you can see with the tempered glass. I would love to see it without the tempered glass. This is cool. This is aftermarket. I don't know where you got this from. We don't sell this, but this is a cool little nice accessory to be able to complement the, looks like this is probably an ASUS KO card that you have in there. The KO card is a cool, interesting card. It's actually been optimized for vertical mounting as opposed to horizontal, but you know me, I'm always a fan of the horizontal mount, so you get a thumbs up for me. And then you got a little setup right here. This is kind of interesting. One thing you could do, if you did want to take something, I don't know if you still have the stickers, right? This Cooler Master pump looks good, right? There's nothing wrong with it, but you could put a sticker over that if you wanted to, right? But I'm assuming that you've got the RGB lighting lit up there. Yeah, so this actually in the RGB lighting, that looks great because you see that nice little white accent, and so that perfectly populates it. So yeah, this definitely system looks really nice once you turn in all that lighting. It's very complimentary. I would say probably that only thing, maybe try to play around with that one a little bit, but other way around, I got no complaints here. This is clean, well executed, well laid out. It's a nice functional build. I'm a fan of it, so it works well. Hey, Richard. Hey, happy to have you on the stream, man. Thanks for joining us here. So let's go ahead and see what we've got here in terms of the submission form, and we will see what we got going on. All right, so this is going to be from Lawrence, I believe, right? And this was actually Lawrence's first build, man. So kudos, man. Thumbs up. Nice job in terms of your first build. Really clean and well done. And again, well managed. I think one of the really cool things that we've seen over the last few years is with the amount of videos, with the amount of posts, with the amount of community support, we're really seeing first-time builders being able to do a really great job, I think, compared to so many other times in history where, you know, there was a lot more variability sometimes in terms of what you ended up being able to put out, right, when you went about putting together your first system. Does the build have a theme? A moonlight white theme? 3 words to describe the build: clean, white, and heavyweight. Does it have a name? Yep, Moonlight White ROG. So he's running in there Ryzen 5 5600X, a ROG Strix B550-A, and then Delta White, all right, memory so from T-Force, 3070 KO. And then he's also got in there, let's see, a couple of PCIe NVMe Gen 3 base M.2 SSDs in there. He's also running an ROG Strix power supply. So that's our power supply, the white power supply. That's great. Yeah, I don't see any issues with that right there. And then he's got the Cooler Master ML240 white series power, cooler. And then that's all running in an O11 dynamic, about $2,000 for the build. He's most happy with the way that everything turned out in terms of the cable management and the aesthetics. I would agree. It's really well done. It's clean, well executed. Anything that would change? My AIO. He's currently using an AIO from Cooler Master, the 240L. Maybe like to change it to the ROG Strix LC2 360 ARGB White Edition. So definitely, I mean, you could upgrade, but I'm going to be honest with you. There's no reason to upgrade unless you just wanted to change the aesthetics and have it kind of complement ROG with an ROG board. Of course, that would be really cool, but you're not going to get any performance benefit, right? Even going to a 360, you're only running a Ryzen 5 5600X, which is going to be readily cooled by 240. So in my personal opinion, I'd say save your money, maybe get an upgrade in anything else, right? You know, upgrade your monitor, upgrade, you know, your keyboard and mouse, maybe add some more storage, anything else you want. You know, I don't think you need to change out the cooler. I think the cooler looks actually quite good in there. Okay. Took him about 2 to 4 days to put everything together. He generally uses this from work from home, from gaming, likes to play some Valorant, Dota 2, and of course, some GE Impact. Yep, definitely. That's very popular right there. So all the way around, favorite function or feature is Armory Crate and the dual BIOS on the 3070 card. So very cool, man. All the way around, man. I'm liking the build, man. Moonlight White, I think you did a solid job. Came out clean, came out well executed. And especially for a first-time build, kudos, man. So all the way around, cool build. Thanks for submitting. All right, so let me see right here. I think we can maybe get one more in here. Let's go ahead and get Black Mamba in here. Sure, let's do that from Jessley. Okay, there we go. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here. All right, so this is a very cool build that we've got in here. Again, got a lot of water cooling, some hardline in here. So one, right off the bat, we can tell that we've got a lot of customization work in here with this course distro, with these hard lines, dual pump and reservoirs right here. We have a high-end HD high-end platform right here because we've got quad channel memory because we can see memory on both sides. 8 DIMMs on here. Of course, we can see a high-end extreme board in there. So this is definitely a high-end kind of no compromise type of system right here in terms of what's being done. So let's continue to take a look here. This is running in an ROG Helios. So this is our ROG Helios chassis. I really like the fact that you didn't go with RGB fans in this. Because it allows the actual pattern to be really strong and identifiable, as opposed to RGB fans will sometimes kind of take away a little bit from the design print on there. And then from there, we can see an overall very, very cool kind of layout there with the Lanley Unifans in terms of the kind of the rainbow pattern, right? And then, of course, this is also a custom decal that he's gone ahead and implemented right here that's also RGB. So a lot of custom work has actually been put into this. So this is pretty cool. Yeah, I love that distro implementation. Very, very cool way to be able to actually integrate all your actual lines in there. And it's different from the norm, right? A lot of times you see horizontal based lines, but you don't see generally only vertical based implementations. So this is a very cool kind of approach here where you've got the vertical, right, running for the CPU, then for the GPU, and then here for the actual dual pumps and res right there. And then only one going up right here, which of course is going to go to the top for the radiator. And then from there, you also got some flow monitoring in there. Now, the flow monitoring you wouldn't even have to do because the motherboard has dedicated water flow, temp inlet, and outlet points. A lot of users don't even sometimes realize that. But you know, it still has a cool aesthetic for those people that like that right there. I do like also that you left exposed visibility for the OLED live dash panel that's also right there. And so here we have it without the RGB, so you can actually see a bit more of what's going on right here, which is pretty cool, right? Where you can actually see the really large distro, right? And you can see all how it plays into play. So that's pretty wild right there. Really nicely done. And the red and the black actually looks good, even though you've gone with a rainbow-based theme. But it would be interesting maybe to go ahead and go with something that would be in perfect alignment. But I don't know. Considering that you've got the red right here, there's symmetry, and of course there's enough black in there to also have symmetry and kind of coordination there in terms of the color scheme as well. Very cool build. Yeah. I mean, this is definitely, if this isn't ROG and high end, I definitely don't know what is. So here we can actually see it set up in the setup right here with his ROG Swift monitor, with very cool kind of scabbard setup right here. It's got his ROG Falchion, right? And very, very cool right there in the corner. Perfectly set up where you can see everything. It's a little bit of shame you miss a little bit of the front right there, right? You also don't have access to all that front I/O that the Helios has. The Helios has 5 front USB 3 ports, right? So that's a little bit of a bummer, but awesome setup. I mean, look right here. We've got the ROG Chariot. We've got monitor here, system right there, another system there, monitor there, and a monitor there. So definitely, we're talking about somebody serious when it comes to their productivity performance. Oh, and I love right here. He's got Horseman. He's got Horseman and an ROGI. That's pretty cool. And so that is a very cool setup. Love the overall execution right there, man. Very cool. Love it, man. This type of passion and enthusiasm support from our community is really amazing to be able to see. So thank you so much, man. And I love right here, yeah, this little shot that we got here with the RG Falchion and then his system right there in the back. That's a great shot right there. And then here, the Claymore keyboard along here with the Falchion, so you definitely know. And here you can see that really cool setup. And there you can also perfectly see that you can still see the OLED live dash, so he's able to actually even see that little kind of stat display right there, which is pretty cool. And then he's got his other system right here, which has also got a Gundam graphics card and is also an ROG system. So very cool, man. This is an awesome setup, man. Envy, I'm sure, of a lot of people. So this is a pretty cool site. I don't even know which image I want to settle on here. So let me go ahead and maybe go back to the, I don't know. There's a lot of cool ones in there. That one works well, but I like seeing. Let's go with that. We'll leave it on that one. Okay. All right. So let me see here. Give me 1 second to actually get your submission form open. All right. And so Evo says that's it's the best one that he's seen so far for sure. I think it's a really, really nice build. Yeah, I would definitely agree. Very, very cool. And the setup is outstanding too, right? So this is Jesse's build, Black Mamba, right? And let's see. So the build have a theme. The build is for heavy gaming, and most important is actually for his CAD work, right? So well, excuse me, I don't know if it's a he or she. So for the CAD work, right? So what are 3 words used to describe the build? ROG and roll. I like that. The name for the system, Black Mamba. Hardware there, we're running a Threadripper platform. So this is a 64 thread system. So makes sense that he's talking about productivity. Excuse me, makes sense that they're talking about productivity. So we've got a 3970X right there. This is all running on an ROG Zenith 2 Extreme Alpha, right? 64 gigabytes worth of memory right there, DDR4 3600 megahertz, a 3090 graphics card, right, which is also water cooled. That's our TUF Gaming graphics card, and a solid amount of storage there. So we got 512 gigabyte NVMe drive, and then two 2 terabyte NVMe drives, 1500 watt power supply with, of course, custom individual sleeved cables, 7 uni fans from Lian Li, all inside of a Helios chassis, and then we've got the ROG Zenith Extreme 2 monoblock from EK, the vector block for the 3090 TUF card. And then we've also, of course, got the dual pump and reses right there from EK as well, from the Quantum line. And then radiators are from Bisky 360. And then also a customized distro plate, which is like, that's really kind of the kind of key element right there, right? So again, if we go back to his system, this is kind of the key distro plate right there, right? And then we can see, of course, the monoblock, which is covering the VRM and the CPU, which I can definitely tell you has value in the Threadripper platform, the VRM and the CPU. It's a hot running component. So being able to actually cool both of them is really giving them an outstanding level of performance. All the way around, we have got a lot of hardware, very high-end CPU, a lot of memory, a lot of high-end kind of configurations along with that duster plate. So this is a pretty pricey system coming in at $11K. He really absolutely loves the custom distro plate. I think that's kind of what sets off the look and feel for the system. Is there anything that they would change about it? I want to change my GPU block to an EK block with an active backplate. Okay. I don't think it's critical, but definitely sure you could add that in there. And then took them about a week to put it all together. And outside, of course, the CAD work, some gaming, so Valorant, Dota 2, CSGO, and Crossfire. And his favorite hardware feature or function is he's really a big fan of the ROG Falchion keyboard. He just overall loves the design and the experience with it. So overall, man, very, very cool, man. No problem, man. Chris, no worries. Hey, it's on demand. You can check it out anytime, man. But hopefully you're staying safe, you're staying healthy, man. And I wish you the best for Friday, and you have a hopefully a nice and enjoyable weekend, man. And best wishes to you and yours. And man, hopefully it's not going to be too cold out for wherever you might be. I'm in California, so we're spoiled, and we always worry when it gets anything under about 50 degrees over here. Although we've had a bit of a chill snap over the last few days here. Oh yeah, so that a user asks is what's the other system for? I don't know. That's a really good question, right? If this one is for this one's for gaming and this one's for the CAD work, and he's got another custom water cooled system, what is that one for? I don't know. So that's a good question. We'll have to actually see if we end up featuring that other build there in the spotlight. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap things up with one last build, and then we're gonna close things out for the stream, man. So let me go ahead and just load this guy up for you, and we'll be ready to go here. So let's go ahead, and I didn't even get through all the submissions, so no worries. Again, as always, if you guys are tuning us here for the PCDIY Builder Spotlight, you guys can always tune back every week, submit your systems, and see your builds featured from ATX, a 2 mini ITX, to air-cooled to water-cooled, first-time builds. It doesn't matter. We love to feature them all, so feel free to go ahead and submit your system for a feature. So I'm going to go and finish things up here with, I think, a very cool mini ITX-based build, and this is going to be the HTPC ROG build, is I think what it's called here, from Javier. So let's go ahead and take a look at the HTPC build here from Javier. Oh, sorry about that, guys. I think I dropped out there for a second. So we are back up here. Sorry, let me finish getting this uploaded here so we can go ahead and bring it up. Is this the submission form? Okay, cool. Got his submission form up right here. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and bring up his system. All right. So let's see what we got going on here. Interesting. Okay, we've got a little bit of a different angle here. Oh, top level. All right. This is kind of interesting. So here we can see we've got one of the, of course, newer kind of split design chassis that we see here now, kind of becoming more the standard within mini ITX-based systems. So we can see we've got the graphic card on one side, and we have the motherboard on the other side right there. Got some cool little accents right there, ready with the ROG. We can tell we've got that riser cable there also going out, which would be connecting there to the graphics card. And then bam, there you go. So this is a very cool and compact little system. So we've got a small form factor board. So this is one of our Dash I boards. You can see we've got a Noctua L9, probably L9i in there. We got some Corsair low profile DDR memory that's in there. And then we've got it all kind of situated and set up. And I can tell from the generation of this is not the current like Z690 series, because this has a lower profile heatsink right here for the M.2 and for the overall kind of design right here. But this is really nice and very cleanly done, of course, for a mini ITX-based system. He's got customized short antenna cables right here, as opposed to the standard cables that came inside the box for this one right here. But this is really nicely done. It's very clean, compact, and well executed. So you can see right here, we've got a couple of little items added in. And then we've got, oh, this is cool. This is a kind of on the rare card. We do make these, which is our actually DC mini cards. So these are ultra compact cards. They're designed for very small chassis. The highest end one that we made was actually, I believe, up to the 3060 series, but they're not made for every single generation. But we do try to sometimes release cards that are designed for smaller form factor enclosures. Although the reality is a lot of the newer small form factor enclosures are designed to complement even our larger cards like our TUF Gaming and ROG Strix series. And we also have the Turbo series, which also will work well in those. But here, this is definitely I think dimensionally, it fits the overall footprint really, really nicely. So that's kind of cool to see that it works well in terms of the overall aesthetic, right? And some nice use there of the stickers too. So overall, kind of cool. I'm a big fan of it. I like it. What do you guys think? I love this actually little small compact system. And it's actually says it's HTPC, but this could be a definite gaming system even within this kind of small compact. You still got a lot of performance here that's going to be available to you. So it's an overall very cool kind of little setup right here that we've got. So let me go ahead and see. Let's go ahead and bring up the submission form and we'll see. So this is going to be HTPC ROG Gaming from Javier. So we've got not his first build. His actual overall theme was an ROG theme. 3 words to describe the system is HTPC ROG Gaming. That is the same for the name. So what we've got the last generation, the ROG Strix Z590-i gaming motherboard on there. We've got, the dual 3060 mini graphics card. So this is going to be the V2 overclock edition. It's got 12 gigabytes of RAM. He's got a Core i7 11700 on there. Very, very nice processor in terms of the performance that we've got there and the core count. Great choice, especially for kind of media center and for a gaming focused PC. No need to have an overclock part on here, right? We're just looking at being able to get instructions per clock, high boost clocks, and essentially desktop class performance. So that's going to fit you perfectly there. A Noctua L9i, as I noted in there. That's all running in an XWorks X32 small form factor chassis. It's got 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory from Corsair, a link up PCI Gen 4 cable, then a ENP 760 watt power supply. He's got the low noise fan for the power supply, running some custom Noctua AF fans there. And then storage wise, looks like it's got a good amount of storage there. So 2 Samsung 980 Pro 2 terabytes, and then 2 872 terabytes in a RAID 0. So it's got PCIe, NVMe storage, and then he also has SATA storage. About $2,500 for the build. He's most proud about how it turned out in terms of just being silent, small, and portable. Anything he would change about the build? Nothing he would change. Took about 2 months of planning and then 2 weeks to overall put it together. He generally uses this for playing retro arcades and console games on in his living room. And he's a big fan of AI Suite 3, so definitely gives him access to things like fan controls and performance tuning options, eco mode, all kinds of things like that. Overall, man, Javier, I like it, man. It's cool to be able to see kind of these small, focused type of builds. And I'm always a fan because this came out really clean and well executed, and it definitely does the job well. So very much a nice way to be able to end out the show. Yeah, and definitely Omar says, let's see what Omar has to say. That's a very nice compact build. I consider building a small open case like this, but went with the N case instead. Yeah, so N case is super popular, right? Corsair N200 series also very much popular too, right? But I think this is a really cool, nice little build. So overall, man, very, very cool build. Nice way to be able to end out the show. So thanks so much for submitting. So that goes ahead and wraps up our stream, guys. So with that, I'm going to be closing things out, guys. Make sure to go ahead and, like I said, check out the ASUS PCDIY group if you guys have any other questions, comments, or feedback. And feel free to go ahead and submit your systems for our next feature in our ASUS PCDIY Builder Spotlight. So with that, guys, take care, take it easy, enjoy the rest of your day.